Hello again, this is News Today. You're welcome. Over the years, many state-owned businesses have suffered the unfortunate fate of declining fortunes and revenue, with some even recording substantial losses. Many have attributed the situation to the typical Ghanaian attitude. It belongs to government and in some cases, poor management. But the question really is, what do you do to a once vibrant aluminum firm which has over time lost its value, yet remains one of the businesses that consumes the most power in the country? And with the country currently grappling with issues of power production, one may ask how prudent it is to provide about 70 megawatts of the country's generated power to a company whose profitability is in question. But an energy expert with the Energy Commission believes the unprofitable nature of Valco Water Aluminum Company should not be blamed on the company and its management. Rather, he attributes the company's current state to the unreliable power provided the company by the country's power producers.
When it comes to Valco, it's the single largest non-utility consumer of electricity. Look at Valco, what's the situation? It's supposed to produce about 180,000 tons of aluminum every year. Right, fine. But unfortunately, because of lack of power, it just ran a one port line. You have five port lines. But the fifth one usually have been produced by half. So that's why otherwise it should have been 200,000 tons per year. Right, fine. Usually, the economics of aluminum is such that the higher the production, the more competitive at higher prices. Like, for example, if producing, say, 200,000 tons per year, then you can run the price of, say, 4 to 5 cents per unit.
Well, according to Dr. Joseph K. Isando Yedu, Deputy Director, Strategic Planning and Policy with the Energy Commission, well, Valco remains a profitable venture which, when well resourced, could generate the necessary revenue for the state. He's therefore calling on the government to increase the power generating capacity of the country in order to provide the necessary supply for the company.
Why rather don't you think of producing the power and increasing our generation capacity? Maybe the investment climate is not right. You see, that's what we have to look at and see how best we can increase the production capacity of this country to enable all these important factors also to go. You see, the industries are collapsing, and they all have a ripple effect on the economy. Because if you, where does it go? What about the residential sector? Accounts for almost 45 to 50% of electricity generation. You see, yes, there is consumption. You see, what do you use the residential? What do you use it for? Entertainment, of course. You see, most are even wasted, about 30% of it. So the key is really to have a sustainable energy, electricity, production. You see, to supply the industrial base. If the industries are working, well, we all feel parents are paid, able to pay the bill no matter what.
Ghana's efforts to achieve the Millennium Development Goal 5, which targets the reduction of maternal deaths to 54 per 100,000 live births by the year 2015, looks bleak. This is because though the target was to reduce it by 75% in 20 years, only a little above 50% reduction has been achieved. And experts are not happy with the slow pace of reduction. Well, they recommend extra efforts for Ghana to achieve the MDG 5 target. Aisha Ibrahim has been exploring the subject.
This is the joy and pride of a mother after a safe delivery. Some mothers, however, don't live to outdoor their babies. The phenomenon of maternal deaths in Ghana continues to be a major problem, even though there has been some improvement in the situation. Deputy Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Gloria Kwanzaa Asari, says the causal factors are many.
So we have what we call the delays. The first delay is at the home, at the community level. If a woman is not educated, if she does not have the power to decide or to work with significant others around her to take decisions about her birth, or even if she doesn't know too much about seeking care during pregnancy and childbirth, then she's actually not going to access health care. And then once the person has decided to seek help, the next thing is getting to the facility. There are places with very poor access roads, places where in the rainy season you cannot even make a trip. So that is also a big issue. And sometimes when the labor starts in the night, even when there's a road, if there's no vehicle, it means that the woman will not be able to access care. So that is what we call the second delay. Then the third delay is once they've come to the facility, we should be able to meet them and do whatever has to be done for them. When they come early, usually it's very easy to handle uncomplicated cases without any eventualities. But a person with a lot of complications or any complication coming all the way and then getting to the hospital late, sometimes there's very little we can do.
Institutional maternal mortality rate has so far reduced from 216 per 100,000 live births in 1990 to 164 per 100,000 live births in 2010, with a distance of 110 to target of 54 per 100,000 live births in 2015. But the MDG-5 targets a reduction of maternal mortality rate by 3/4 by the year 2015. Referrals still remain a problem in many districts. Many districts lack ambulance services, making it very difficult to transport referred patients.
The referral aspect of it is still actually, and I do agree, because I know quite a number of the districts are located in rural settings, and transportation there is very bad. And so you have most of the women getting to the hospitals in critical conditions. At these facilities, some of they don't even have medical doctors there. And so usually you have the medical assistants or the nurses transferring them to the next facility for emergency care. And so because there are no ambulances there, you have some of the women dying at those facilities because there's no ready means of transport, such as an ambulance or even a commercial vehicle they can take to go to the next facility.
In order to achieve the MDG-5 of reducing maternal mortality by 3/4, several challenges and bottlenecks have been identified that needs to be dealt with. These include the improvement in deployed skilled health workers, supply of equipment, logistics, staff accommodation, transportation and ambulance services. The Ghana Health Service looks forward to doing more to correct the situation. Unavailable data set on maternal health care for systematic investigation into maternal health has also been a challenge. The Ghana Health Service says it is working round the clock to get it rectified. Aisha Ibrahim, Joy News, Accra.
Region. Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Edward Duajahu, has criticized the media for what he describes as the increasing recklessness and unprofessionalism in our reportage since the repeal of the criminal libel law. According to him, after the repeal of the laws in this country, it appears the spirit of the amended legislation has been lost. Thus, the repeal of the criminal libel law has made citizens or sections of the media and journalists reckless and unprofessional. Duajahu, speaking at an event in the Volta region, argued that some sections of the media were guilty of sensationalism, disregarding the harm they caused to the reputation of other people. In this regard, I spoke earlier on News Desk with Dave Agbenu, who is General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association.
First of all, I think that the speaker was speaking the minds of many Ghanaians. We agree with him that there's been some recklessness on our part. And if I say ours, I'm using that in plural terms, that some of us have not been that diligent and purposeful in our work. But having said that, I think also that the media should not only be blamed. There are other people, particularly politicians, who should also take part of the blame. Because, as he said, there's a need to review the law that established the National Media Commission so it can be given some teeth to bite. What he meant by that was for them to be able to either sanction or bring to book those who fall foul of the law. The fact remains that some effort in the past has gone on to have some laws apart from those that ensure that we practice the profession in a very congenial atmosphere. But the legislators or parliament has not been able to support the effort to review the law and have some other laws passed to ensure some sanity in the industry.
What are those laws that need review? What are those laws that will help sanitize the industry?
Well, first of all, we agree that the Media Commission has to be given some teeth to bite. That's one. Then the Freedom of Information Bill that has been lying in Parliament for a very long time, and the broadcasting law that has also been lying in Parliament. We think that if these things are done, we will not be, or had been done, we will not be talking about these issues today.
Well, on the same issue, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, Chief Policy Analyst with Depot and promoter of Radio I, has been commenting on it. With regards to, comments from the Speaker of Parliament about the media being reckless and unprofessional since the repeal of the libel law. What are your thoughts about
I disagree with the Speaker. I think the media is probably a little out of control in the sense that there are too many of them, and therefore you are bound to have bad nuts and good nuts. Unfortunately, there are too many bad nuts, and there are too many people who are unschooled in the profession who speak out of turn and use language which is unbecoming. But that's quite different from saying that, they are not telling the truth. Because when you examine what the Speaker said, actually, what did the media do? Parliament took a decision which was diametrically contrary to what the President was trying to promote. Nothing any media said was wrong or irresponsible. Now, no journalist in Ghana is exempt from the laws of Ghana. And therefore, anybody who feels injured or libeled or scandalized can go to law to protect themselves. So let this not be a mantra that because there are no laws or broadcasting laws and this, people cannot be held to account. So we should push that aside and say that, but that is not to suggest that the media is not there. Now, it was interesting that the same Speaker was saying that the Media Commission should be given more powers.
How well is the Media Commission performing its job as a regulator?
Well, you see, first of all, it has no real enforceability. I remember the current president of Ghana, when he was communications minister, tried to introduce the 1 minute delay law into Ghana. The journalists kicked against it because this was in the time in the euphoria about press freedom. Nana Akufo-Addo, as Attorney General, tried to establish allies which would give teeth. You see, you have what is written in the Constitution, and to make it work effectively, you have to pass a legislative instrument to that effect. Against the journalists, kicked against it. So I don't think a reintroduction of criminal libel is important, but we need, after 20 years, why don't we have a broadcasting law in Ghana? We don't have an act. So the law that will regulate the industry
people have been sitting on it. I remember that I wrote a memorandum in 1995 to a ministerial committee that was supposed to be passing a broadcasting law. We are still waiting for that law.
President John Mahama is expected to join players in the media industry to mark the 20th anniversary since the introduction of Ghana's first private radio station, Radio I. The president will open a 3-day conference from Wednesday 19th November to 21st November 2014. The conference will assess the strides and strains within the media industry, noted as the fourth stage of the democratic realm. It's organized by the Ghana Institute of Public Policy Options, and Dr. Charles Reku Brobe is the chief policy analyst of the institute, and he's been talking to me. As an event.
Well, tomorrow we are taking the opportunity to look at the whole of the broadcasting situation in Ghana since the advent of My Name Tarzan and the onset of Radio I. We've had private media in Ghana now for 20 years. Coming up tomorrow. But there's never been a review of what is happening, and essentially we seem to be playing by the hoof. I mean, I've listened to the interview you were having with the GJ. Yeah, we've been waiting for 21 or 22 years for the Right to Information Act to be passed, and it's still there. So I think we need to do the right things first, and part of the objective of the meeting we are having tomorrow is to come out with a roadmap in which we say that these things need to be done and done quickly, so that there isn't just now there's too many Tarzans. The whole of the broadcasting industry has become Tarzans because everyone is doing what they like, and that is what is creating the confusion. So bringing sanity into the broadcasting industry is not a return to criminal libel,
which is what the broadcasting law will
do. Yes.
Can you imagine not having a toilet in your house and having to queue for hours every morning just to be able to ease yourself daily? Well, I can't. An estimated 23% of Ghanaians do, and actually they defecate in the open every day because they lack the facility in their homes. Ghana will join the rest of the world tomorrow to mark World Toilet Day. That's November 19, on the impact of open defecation on the socio-economic development of Ghana. Aisha Ibrahim has been engaging some experts in water and sanitation on this issue.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and I welcome you to News Desk on Joy News. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Let's look at the big stories. Tomorrow marks World Toilet Day, and can you imagine not having a toilet in your house and having to queue for hours every morning just to be able to ease yourself daily? Now, an estimated 23% of Ghanaians are said to defecate in the open every day as they lack toilet facilities in their homes. Joining me in the studio this morning is Kweku Kwansa. He's Programs Officer at the Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate of the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. Good morning, sir. And he's also here with Emmanuel Ade, his communication expert, water and sanitation issues. Good morning, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Many homes in Accra do not have toilet facilities, and I'm asking Mr. Kweku Kwansa this question. And last year, the AMA promised that they were giving ultimatum to all houses to ensure that they have toilet facilities in their homes. Up to date, we haven't seen that happen. Would you blame the MMDAs for not making that happen, or would you blame them as part of the problem?
Thank you very much. Issues around toilets in Ghana are very important and very critical because they affect livelihoods. They affect tourism, they even affect national development. And basically, our understanding is that at least we have bylaws and regulation that are supposed to support landlords to build toilets in their homes. But it's not happening as we expect. Rightly said, AMA last 2 years gave a whole year ultimatum to landlords to build toilets in their properties. Some action has been done. Our information is that within the year, toilets within the AMA area has increased by 15%, which is very, very commendable. But we need more action on that to be able to cover the entire city in AMA. Notwithstanding, we have few challenges with open defecation and other challenges around sanitation.
I know the AMA reports to the local government ministry. What has been the AMA's challenge in achieving this goal of all houses in Accra having toilet facilities?
AMA and most assemblies are using two strategies. That's continuous education, appealing to the conscience of people to build and use toilets. The second one is enforcement. And on the side of enforcement, the issue is about how to really send good signals to people and also collaborate with the courts to be able to sort of dispose of sanitation cases in good time. The second is about the fines. Currently, some of the fines are not deterrent enough. So AMA will do all the work, bring the culprits to court, but the fines are in some cases as low as 50 Ghana cedis. And this is not too deterrent enough. Going forward, we need to engage the courts and Minister of Justice and Attorney General to be able to support us in this direction.
But you also agree with me that people who defecate in the open may not be their fault because they don't have toilet facilities, and probably the public toilets are not enough. This is nature's call, and we have no reason to let it go. We definitely have to attend to nature's call. But the convenience is not there. Going forward, what is the local government ministry doing to make sure these things don't happen?
Yeah, I agree with you. Public toilets are meant for not for the populace, not for residents, but it's meant for transient population. So we want to put a little de-emphasis on public toilets, but rather put a lot of emphasis on household toilets. There are few public toilets in some cities, including Accra, where when you go to our lorry parks, when you go to our markets, you find some public toilets. But we don't want to replace public toilets with household toilets. You want households to have toilets.
Sade, let's look at the theme at stake. We're saying that the impact of open defecation on the socio-economic development of Ghana. What are the impacts?
The impacts are enormous. One, even this year alone, we are still living in it. Look at the outbreak of cholera. About 200 deaths, about 20,000 cases. And look at the cost of treatment and the cost of funerals, cost on the burden on families alone. And that's just about cholera. Every year, more than 5,000 Ghanaian children under 5 die out of diarrheal disease, which are also linked to open defecation. So even the cholera, when you made a comparison, is even on the lower side. But then we have cost to tourism because people may not want to come to, let's say, filthy areas, certain beaches. Some people will never go there because they see people defecating there. So the cost that the amount that we could have realized from tourism, we may not be getting. So cost of seeking medical attention, cost of even treating yourself when you are also ill. Let's say you may be home for 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, you are at the hospital, you are paying bills, you are also not going to work, so you are not productive. So this also has economic cost. And we have on record that Ghana loses about more than 800 million Ghana cedis every year to sanitation related
You're watching news today. Still to come, Economists Dr. says they ask government to ensure the 2015 budget cuts down the wage bill so it can significantly reduce the fiscal deficit. Thanks for staying on. Economist Dr. Acosta is asking government to ensure the 2015 budget, which will be read on Wednesday, November 19, cuts down the wage bill so it can significantly reduce the fiscal deficits. This budget, he says, should also come with innovative ways of raising revenue and prudent ways of spending those revenues.
Government, according to the central bank, between January and September this year, raised a total of 17.7 billion Ghana cedis in revenues and grants, falling short of the target of 18.4 billion Ghana cedis. It, however, spent 24.4 billion cedis with a budgeted ceiling of 25.8 billion cedis, registering a deficit of 6.7 billion Ghana cedis, or 5.9% of GDP. For the Development Economists, the coming budget should ensure the budget deficit is drastically reduced.
The high wage bill, is one issue that the government must find ways of reducing the wage bill. Reducing the wage bill doesn't necessarily mean government should reduce or cut the size of the civil servants or freeze wage. It also will mean that having a very effective public financial management system in place to ensure that all loopholes are blocked and also reduce grafts and corruption, within the system, like ghost names and others. If that one is well checked, I think the wage bill can come down.
He proposed a reduction of tax exemptions and incentive packages for tax payments to rake in revenues.
I've always said that maybe the government can have some kind of incentive package, to those who pay tax. For example, even assessing credit from the microfinance institutions. The microfinance institutions should be empowered to demand the tax certificate, just as when you are going to export or import certain product, they will require you to produce your tax, certificates and all. GRA has to be well resourced. They have to come out with a much more cost-effective way of collecting this money. Now there are, a lot of technologies that have come. They can deploy it, or a kind of technology that makes it easier, even like buying a card or something. It will be a way, mobile money system and all that. They have to be more innovative.
Dr. Acosta, meanwhile, expects the budget to hinge on the proposed IMF program.
The SGDA actually ended last year, 2013. The second one, this GDA 2 has actually not started or rolled out. We haven't launched that yet, which is supposed to start from 2014. And therefore, we have to know upon which policy that this budget is based on. So I'm expecting that this budget, if it is not based on the GSGDA, then it should at least be based on the short-term policy framework of the IMF, that the program that the government will have with the IMF, so that there will be a policy harmony, there will be policy coherence and consistency.
Abigail Adamakunchi for Joy News.
The Greater Accra Chair of the National Democratic Congress, Joseph Adekoka, and the new Patriotic Member of Parliament for Bosomtwe, Simon Osei Mensah, have been sharing their opinions and expectation of the 2015 fiscal budget. They spoke on the AM show.
Budget that will ensure that people are able to have access to funds. The tax regime, the taxing of the tax incentive, there must be tax incentives. Reducing of tax incentives so that people will be able to have capital to work with. The area of austerity must now, we should do something about it. We need to free the economy. The budget must be a budget that is going to expand the economy, allow the economy to work rather than tighten the economy more. If we tax too many things, people then don't have capital to work. We need to, this is not the time to go to the budget tomorrow and then we have a situation where new taxes are imposed. It will be burdensome. We need to at least have some reliefs, so that reliefs that will ensure that people use homegrown policies We need to have homegrown policies. We need to encourage the local industries now to be able to produce the things that we need rather than going to import. We need to do that.
The level of implementation of the 2014 budget. So what's the basis of the projections that we are going to have? When 11th month, we are left with less than 1.5 months to the end of the year. Not a single disassembly common fund has been disbursed. Not one.
You mean not one single local assembly?
Not one.
Has received...
Not a peswa.
At least for the fiscal year?
The whole 2014. Up to today that we are talking. If they are going to do disbursement...
Some payments were made.
Oh, please, let me talk. If you know that disbursement has been made in relation to 2014, tell me. When somebody went to court and the court directed that the government should pay, what they paid was arrears. Third quarter 2013 and fourth quarter, 2013. Not 2014. Nothing has been paid. So for instance, if you come to this assembly, what projections are they going to make? What is the actual as a September ending for which they will base on and project? What disbursement have they made to get fund? What disbursement have they made to National Health Insurance Fund? You see, so if we don't even have the actuals for this year, what type of budget are we going to have there? Well, that's my problem. What's the basis of the projections that we are going to make for 2015? So this budget to me is flawed from day one.
We'll stay on the 2015 budget. Well, some state institutions would from next year be asked to borrow on their own without any government guarantee. This is one of the measures Finance Minister Setekwe is expected to announce in the 2015 budget on Wednesday. According to some persons close to the budget, the move would help bring down the public debt, which is currently hovering around 66 billion Ghana cedis. It would ensure that state institutions are more responsible on how they go about borrowing and also be responsible with funds. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Finance Mona Cortez told Joy News the budget would come up with the new measures to check the rising deficits. She said the budget will also take into consideration government's 3-year program with the International Monetary Fund. Coming up next year is Sports with Baba Tando.